What's going on, guys, and welcome back. So we had our set championships. We were able to attend 3 events throughout the 2 weeks of it. Went back to back this Saturday and Sunday. Unfortunately, but fortunately, we only got 1 stitch. I was really hoping to fulfill the tall task of at least getting 2 and 2 playmats, because I really wanted to do a playmat giveaway on the channel. Unfortunately, that did not happen, but like I said, fortunately, because many weren't able to, we did get our stitch though. We got it, third time was the charm. We went back to Old Faithful with our tempo aggro build. We tried green purple discard yesterday, didn't work. Deck did what it needed to. Tiebreakers just weren't on our side. If we had the 2-game format, we technically would have been undefeated. We 2-0'd all of our wins, and we went to game 3 in our losses. Unfortunately, this weekend alone, I was counting top cut. I think I went 3 and 9 in die rolls, and I went like 1 and 4 last weekend. So like die rolls really were not our friend. The 4 matches that we won the die roll, we won all of our matches. Last weekend I played a Amethyst Steel list. I don't think it was worth showing you guys. It needed a lot of work. I do have an updated list that I'm testing on Pixelborn. I'll have replays and deck theory on that list. The one I played, it didn't work. The theory was great, and unfortunately sometimes theory just doesn't pan out on paper. I should have tested more. If you want, there should be some links down or timestamps down below. I'm going to go over some key things when you're preparing for an event, at an event, playing events, just to remember, because not everyone wins all the time, how to bounce back. Like I said, we scrubbed out, we lost on tiebreakers, we didn't get to top 8 twice, and we just kept grinding at it, and we were able to get our stitch the 3rd time. So how to keep that motivation going when it seems like everything's falling apart, especially yesterday. Like my friend Brock, who I go to events with and play with, he can attest to, I was just like going over, I'm like, don't be surprised if I come back with a completely different deck. And after overthinking it, making so many changes, I sat down, I'm like, okay, we're just gonna go pull discard, go back to tempo, and that's the only change we're gonna make. And it worked for us. So after overthinking and overanalyzing, we settled down a bit. But we were able to get our stitch, like I said, fortunately, and we played green purple, so not too much to say there. Huge shout out to all Access Cardshop or just outside of Green Bay, in Green Bay. To me, it's Green Bay. There's like a bunch of obviously outlying areas, but Green Bay, Wisconsin. If you're in northern Wisconsin, middle Wisconsin, and you want, in my honest opinion, the best local scene, competitive events, great prizing for events. They gave away a couple boxes and still had cheap entry into the tournament. You can get this playmat from them as well. It was a Grimoire collaboration with them. But without further ado, thank you Patreons also, guys. I didn't want to cram it in here for too long. Our April giveaway, I'll be streaming on Tuesday. Hopefully streaming if I can figure all that stuff out again. It's been like 2 years since we did it. Stream our giveaway. We're doing 4 Robin Hood giveaways, so information down below. 1 drops. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise. We played 4 Merfolk. See if I can bring you guys in a little closer now that done talking about the playmat. So we played 4 Merfolk. Pretty obvious, we were playing tempo aggro, so it's a 1 drop that your opponent has to discard a card if they're going to try to deal with it. That's pretty good, right? The lack of times people had to discard to deal with this card was kind of frustrating, and I almost played 4 Maleficent instead, just to at least put that 1 damage on their characters. At the end of the day, I felt like that 1 damage was going to come up less than if they had to discard, because both effects don't really come up a whole lot or too often. So we went with Merfolk. Like I said, when it comes up, I felt like the discard was more important than the 1 damage. Other 1 drops we played, we went 3 Rafiki. Just, the challenger status really good, some board presence, board control, and then also 3 followers. I was playing 2 Maleficents and just playing 4 Rafiki yesterday, but changing around the uninkable counts, which we'll get to and talk about the cards and why. I felt like this is really nice. Like, people usually let you keep it on board too, so it's like you get it on board. You can usually challenge or quest with it, and a lot of times they don't take it out right away, and you can quest a second time, and then you can draw a card. Like Maleficent, they remove it for sure the first time you use it if you can't bounce it or something like that. So, like Maleficent, sometimes you'll get like 4, 6 if you're like open insanely crazy. But this card was just really nice with that draw and being inkable, trying to keep my inkable count up higher so we could continue playing the game. Round 5 we played against Brock, who again I go to events with and everything. Winner would get into the top 8, at least if I won. If he won, I'm not sure. It would have came down to tiebreakers a lot more. I had just insane tiebreakers and got into top 8, but like I said, shout out to Brock a ton. Like, we have pretty different play styles, so like he gives me a great perspective that a lot of time I don't see. And that's really nice to have in a friend / teammate, however you want to look at it. Going back to Yu-Gi-Oh, same thing. Just really smart, good player. He's actually been doing really good with his Sapphire Steel, so we'll see how that goes. And 4 snakes, pretty self-explanatory. 4 Flynns also, like the 2-drop lineup for Ursula's. I don't think there's anything crazy or out of the world here. Like, it's all pretty much, you should expect it. The bounce package, too good. Bouncing Ursula's. Also, after I go through all the cards, I'll talk about like matchups and mulliganing, because I think that's the most important thing with this deck. We played 2 Steel Songs today, and we won both of them. I think that was, other than Mufasa, my worst matchup. I got paired with Mufasa, and I didn't realize how bad that deck just steamrolls me. Like, I don't know. He just had too many late game cards. One more 2-drop, though. We were playing 3 Puas. He's inkable. He's a 2-drop. He quests for 2. So being inkable and having 2 willpower is why he's in here over Pinocchio. The one stat line, just it dies to Olafs and minis and literally anything. The one extra lore on inkable, it to me, I felt like Pua was the better call. It was between this and Enchantress, the green card, because when she's challenged, she gets +2, so she has 3 strength and usually takes out whatever challenges her, which is actually really, really nice. But only 1 willpower means that Olaf or the mini, any of these cards, take her out too easily, so that's why we didn't do it. Luckily, Enchantress would also take out like them Olafs or minis because the +2. But just the fact that like any 1 strength 1-drop characters from like Ruby Amethyst or other popular decks, they can't just clean take out a Pua on their own. Or even against like Emerald, if they try going like just Ursula, they can't just take out the Pua in one swing. So that was a big deciding factor in why we played Pua. 3 drops, no explanation needed here, right? Like, Deceiver of All, she's insane. Draw 4 is just nuts. Yeah, not too much else to say. Again, 4 Foxes because the bounce package was just way too strong. You can't really say enough about it. The Rush 2 is just crazy, and we'll get to that a little more in a little bit too. So make sure you stick around for that. I'm messing up my piles here on the side. We're playing some more 3s. We went 3 Kit Cloud Kicker. Like I said, when we went back to Tempo, he was kind of the card to go in. If you can go turn 1 Merfolk, turn 2 Flynn, and especially if they miss their 1-drop, and turn 2, like, they have a less than ideal player. So, and then turn 3, you can Kit bounce their card. Like, you gain so much advantage so early. Also, Ursula, he's an answer to Surfer Mini to slow down Ruby Amethyst. That was one of our losses Saturday to Ruby Amethyst. He got out double Mini on by turn 4, and I had no answers in the discard version to Surfer Mini, so it just like did not work out. I mean, you could play like Pascal plus Crab, but like, I don't know. I don't want a 2-card answer to it or hope on it. I guess at that point, I'd rather just play Sir Hiss. It's one card to answer it, so you get him out and just clean take out the mini with one card without needing multiple cards. I guess Pascal, you're like, if you're playing it, they're both evasive. They both have one defense. It's a 1 cost, not a 2. But again, you need to be able to see your crab, which in discard I was playing 4. For tempo, I was playing 2. I think in tempo it's less important because you're not challenging your opponent nearly as much. In discard and other more controlled versions of Amethyst Emerald, I could see playing 4 crab, absolutely. But again, we're playing like a tempo aggro build. Went aggro knowing how popular Ruby Amethyst was. I felt like it was the call to make was get a little more aggressive. 4s, we played 4 goat and 3 rabbits. I know 3 rabbit, right? Like, why not 4? I have so much card draw already, and being uninkable, which it's, the best uninkable card in the deck, but it just felt unnecessary at 4. Like at 3, I'm seeing it so much already between draws and looking at the deck and stacking the deck, and yeah, I don't know. I felt like 3 was plenty. I've actually played versions, if you've been following the channel, with like 1, 2, and actually played at like hyper aggro without it, and I thought the deck ran fine. So playing it at 3 to me was definitely plenty. The absolute spice of the deck. Every time I saw this card, it put in so much work. Every time I saw this card, I won. Like, he was insane. He helped me out double castles like very quickly. Beast Wolfsbane. For those who don't know, he's a 5 cost, 4/4 2 quester, and he has rush. In addition, when he's played, any characters that are damaged on your opponent's side of the board get exerted. So if they're trying to just hold their board so that they can just like clean quest out the next turn because they're damaged and they needed to get a couple more down or anything like that, or they have a key piece that has damage, he'll actually exert them and you can take them out. That effect didn't come up at all. So how I ended up coming to Beast. With the discard version, I was like, okay, tried like saying, well, if we don't play Prince John, we're not getting near advantage off of Lucifer, right? So if we cut Prince John, we cut Lucifer naturally, and that's 5, because I was playing 3 Prince Johns. I went from 4 to 3. I felt like that was actually working better for me. We'll have our discard version with, again, pixelborn replays up on the channel, but this isn't discard, so we're not going to get into that too much on why. So cutting Lucifer, I'm like, well, what's a good high-end replacement for him? So I was looking at like just the 5 costs and up. Ideally like 5, 6, because I didn't want to get into like 7, 8 ink curve cards like Elsa or Ursula. So I was looking at like the 5s and 6s, and I saw him. I'm like, okay, the 4/4 is nice. It takes out like a lot of cards. It can survive a lot with 4 will. I mean, Goat, Crab, Medusa, I guess, all have 4 attack. Medusa can't take him out with her effect, which is really nice. He survives a crash into Tremaine, which is really nice. He can put 4 of the 5 needed on a sad beast with rush. So like if you have literally anything on board, and there was a few times where I had like the 2-drop Ursula, and it's like Ursula into beast, and they take the 1 damage, and they're like, oh, like assuming they're not going to draw a card. And then I'm like, okay, beast, finish off your beast, and I survive. And they're like, I did not see that coming. That came up like 3 times. Steel Song, this card was really, really good. But yeah, he just put in a lot of work, and we cut Lucifer. We found him. I'm like, okay, rush, 4/4, quest for 2. Let's try it out. Saturday I played 1, and the card was just really crazy. So I put in a second one for today. And like I said, all 3 times that I played him today, I won like very, very shortly after. I wouldn't play him at more, being uninkable and a 5-drop, but I definitely think he's a card that people should test out. And then we had one Yzma rounding out our character lineup. Not a whole lot else to say about Yzma. You know, she's inkable, 6, so she worked out pretty good. Song lineup. 4 friends. Nothing too crazy there, right? Like drawing 4 is just nice. Or drawing 2 is nice. Drawing 4 is crazy. We went 2 Mother Knows Best. we, like I said, we tipped back towards tempo, but we went more aggro. So we had 3 kits in, 2 Mother Knows Best, double bounce twice, won both those games. But otherwise used her just like as single bouncing even, and just it really helped out a lot. Another answer to like slow surfer mini down. And we played 1 bosses on a roll. This card was insane. It overperformed so much. The one turn I had Friends in hand. I had these 2 cards in hand and Ursula on field. And I was like, draw 4. I'm like, or it's like, okay, let's look at top 5. We gained a lore. And then I was like, I mean, you could technically draw 4 at that point, right? But I was like, what if we don't have anything good in our top 5? You can put them all to the bottom and hope your next 4 have something good. But I double saying this. I stacked my deck, and what did I have? I pulled Fox Castle off the top of the deck, gained 2 lore, and then buried everything else because it was nothing I wanted. So I knew going forward my cards would be better too. And then I sang Friends with a different character, grabbed my castle and my Fox. Fox bounced the Ursula to protect her for next turn. Had castle also that I was able to play. Like, it was just really, really strong, I felt. I might add a second one. I don't think more than 2 is needed, but a second one would actually be kind of interesting. Also added the bosses on a roll because between 4 Goat, the boss, and 2 spellbooks, I had 7 ways to gain lore that turn. So closing out games, you don't always want to give your opponent another turn. And like, for some reason, our local scene, the first tournament I went to, there was 7 red blues and none of them made top 10 even. Like, they were all in like the 20s, and like none of them performed well. Our local area apparently is just really ready for item decks. Saturday, there's a couple, they didn't perform very well again. Like, item decks just did not do good at all. So I was like, I don't think there's a whole lot of item hate. Saturday, there is, I think, 7 of the 19 players played Ruby Amethyst. And I was like, okay, like, spellbook's got to go in. Pinocchio came out, and I was like, you know what? We pulled 2 Pinocchio. He's uninkable. Let's go ahead and put 2 spellbooks in. We'll see it more. And if you see multiples, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, think Steel Song. When Steel Song gets out multiple flutes against Ruby Amethyst, they probably win those matches way more than they don't. So having 2, I felt like, was just going to be really strong. I wasn't disappointed at all. Like, this card put in so much work today. It was really, really nice. People just didn't have answers for it for the most part. I think I got Benjud once and a Rise of the Titans once today, but it just really was really, really good. And then we played 3 castles. I actually had all 3 of these out round 1 today against Blurple. He couldn't answer it. Shocker. Like, when you get that many castles, I was just so oppressive. It was a really weird game state, but I don't know if, I mean, you can go ahead and play 4. I only owned 3, so we played 3. You don't need 4, but obviously you'll see it more at 4, and it's inkable, so it's never going to be a bad thing. I just felt like 4, though, I don't think this card's crazy in Ruby Amethyst matchup because, like, Maui just is too good against it. And obviously they have Fox too, and just they have a lot of characters that deal with Castle really well. So I didn't think it was going to be that crazy. Speaking matchups though, so like Ruby Amethyst, what cards do I try to get with my Mulligan and whatnot? Like, obviously your Merfolk, your Spellbook, like I said, because they don't really have an answer for Spellbook. Like your Merfolk Flynn, turn 1, 2, especially if they miss their 2-drop, is really good. Otherwise too, like, even depending how I'm feeling, like sometimes I'll keep Mim Snake, just because like Merfolk Quest Snake bounce it turn 2 is just so strong because you know that you're protecting it. Anything in their deck takes out your Merfolk, and then like turn 3 you come back with like Flynn and Cursed. So like these 4 cards are kind of what I go for. I try to go aggro against Ruby Amethyst and less into the drawing I'm gonna out advantage you type stuff, because I feel like I want to close that game out quick before you get to that type of be prepared game state. So I thought that that was the way to go with it. If we're going against item decks like blue steel, I mean blue steel puts characters down a little bit more than red blue does, but like versus slower item decks, like I really try to like load up on my aggro, because if you can jump out ahead really early, it works out so nice. However, I will say you really should, especially versus blue steel, try to get an Ursula in your hand, because turn 4 you're probably gonna have to play her, maybe even turn 3 depending if like you're turn player or going second. All you care about is grab your swords. Anything else, they're gonna take out one character and you just take it. But grab your swords clears your board. So like you really want a mulligan to have an Ursula, and ideally 2 aggro cards. You want your turn 1. If you have to settle for one of your other turn 1s, that's fine. Like as long as you put a character down turn 1, that's fine. And you have your Ursula. You don't want to use their turn 2 though, because they're not going to grab your swords turn 2. They're gonna ramp turn 2 and 3, and then maybe turn 4 you're gonna have to Ursula. So you have turn 1, like turn 2, turn 3, and if you didn't have your merfolk turn 1, say you play a Rafiki or a followers turn 1, that's fine. And again, followers, I wouldn't draw off it. I'd keep it for 2 or 3 turns questing, and then like the third time around, then I would draw off of it. But like turn 2, then you come back with Flynn. Turn 3, you come back with a 2 and a 1 drop, and you put so much pressure on your opponent, because you'll get like 1 on turn 2, then you'll get 3 more to 4, then you put these down, and then you'll get 8 more, so you'll go to a 12 by turn 4, and then you drop your Ursula, and you hit the grab your swords out of their hand, so you'd have that other 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're going to clear one of your cards with the song. Maybe, no, they won't be able to do 2 unless they have characters, so like drop her turn 4. Versus blue red, I think that matchup is probably the best matchup for this deck. I just think you breeze through it too easily. The only thing you have to worry about is the Queen of Hearts with Rush as a 2-drop. Other than her though, I don't think you really have anything to worry about. And even with her, like she trade like, so like if it's red blue, the only difference is I absolutely prioritize Pua over Flynn, because Pua will take out and trade with her queen, whereas Flynn, doesn't. So definitely Pua over Flynn in the red-blue matchup, I would say. What doesn't that cover? Kind of went blue, steel, red, blue, discard. Discard can be tricky. Again, I mean, it's an aggro deck, so saying I want to go aggro is kind of, like redundant. But if I can hit, like if I have an Ursula, I still I'll like always keep my Ursula, but if I can hit 2 Ursulas, so you verse them, a lot of time like they'll go Captain Hook, so I actually like to go like Rafiki early, or even if you can go like Rafiki and Merfolk, and you drop your Merfolk, you don't quest with it, because they're gonna just clean it with like their hook. So if you can't bounce it with Snake, which would be ideal, you can always like get your Rafiki down, and then when you quest with it, they're gonna have to discard a card to take it out with their hook, and then you can at least take out the hook with Rafiki, and he'll only take the 1 damage and stick around. So you don't quest with it the first turn, you keep the Rafiki there to kind of help clean up the mess afterwards. But otherwise, like double Ursula to help curb their songs, really good. And the one guy who we added back in for today also helps a lot, because when they try to get their Ursula down, you can kick Cloud Kicker and bounce her back to the hand. Slows down the double singing, because double singing like let the Storm Rage on is so scary, because they're drawing 2 cards and clearing 2 of your aggro cards. Yeah, double sudden chill hurts too, but when they get 2 cards and clear 2 cards of yours, like the +4 is so much worse than the discard 2. Unless, I mean, obviously if they have Prince John, they're going to draw 2 also, but just disrupting that Ursula. So like, if you can hit one Ursula for sure, one kit for sure, and then like your couple aggro cards, like that's what I guess I kind of go for there. Steel Song, the last matchup, I guess we're gonna cover quick here. I forego Merfolk like almost entirely because they just have so many answers for it. They're gonna sing a song, they're gonna clear it easy. If you happen to open it, that's fine. If you go first, play it. If they're going first and they open Cinderella, don't play this card. They're just going to sing a song and clear it. Do something like, I mean, they're going to sing a song and their songs are going to clear anything, right? So you kind of just skip your turn one, I've found to be kind of effective, because they're not a deck that's going to jump out on you really, really early. I, again, kind of like discard because they have the songs and double singing. Steel Song plays a ton of songs. I go for 2 Ursulas minimum, like 2 Ursula minimum. And then again, we try to stay away from the aggro cards because they're just going to sing to remove them. So they're not discarding, or like, you're not gaining that advantage that you would anyway. And I'll try to go for like, this time I'll like really try to get my bouncers in play. Because not only can you bounce your Ursula, especially if you only open 1, but if you open 2 and a bouncer, like you essentially have 3 Ursulas, and you can just start hitting their songs repeatedly, and it helps so much. I don't go for Ursula Friends in that matchup either. I mean, obviously if you open it after mulliganing, you open it, but Bare Necessities and Ursula, they play them. So I found that they come after your friends anyway. And I actually, versus Steel Song the first time today, I inked Friends my first 2 turns. And he actually had 2 Bare Necessities in his hand. And I went first, inked one. He played Cinderella. I inked a second one. He sang it to see my hand, and I had none left. So it's like, I don't know. It's unfortunate that you don't get to just sing and do that. But, you know, sometimes you got to play smarter. So yeah, with those matchups, I go after the songs, and I try to put down the bigger bodied characters so I can just trade with their board. Especially Steel Song, like shifting Robin Hood and Queen. So important to bounce them and slow that down, because obviously Queen shift turn 2 is very, very big of a threat. So you can't stop that with Kit, but if you're on the play, so you're going first, like if you can hit their Robin Hood and slow the whole tempo of the Robin Hood shift play, it's just really, really strong. Like, you need to disrupt that, because Robin Hood's a pain to deal with. You can deal with it, but he's just a pain. So if you can bounce that, slow their tempo, slow their roll, it works out really, really nice. And then kind of, you know, these 2 guys don't really need any explanation. They're good in every matchup. I don't really prioritize trying to get them in my opening hand ever, though. Because like Goat, if you see him early, he usually turns into ink, and I goated for game 5 times today, and like my top 4 match came right down to the wire, but I had to ink 2 of them like my first 2 turns, just so I could start playing the game. So it's like I need to goat for game here again, because again, it was really close. But how are you gonna goat for game when you already inked 2 of them? Top 4 is against Ruby Amethyst. Lost the die roll. Really good games. We just, you know, you're playing a turn behind, and it didn't work in our favor, unfortunately. So what are some tips, I guess, for preparing for an event? Obviously the big one, practice. Practice. On last weekend we did the Amethyst Steel, and I went for a very out there build, and the theory was great. All the cards were like, I play all the cards, I know the cards, they work really well, but they didn't work well together, and the strategy just didn't work out. So had I play tested with the deck, because I didn't, I was just like, I'm smarter than everyone, which I'm not, and I was like, these cards work. I've played all these cards in different decks. I really like them this format. The cards just didn't go good together, and had I spent more time play testing, that I would have found that out. So definitely practice. Understanding too, I don't care how good of a player you are, you're not going to win every event. Like, it's just not going to happen. The best players don't win all the time. Like, if you look at pixelborn, the top players, yeah, sure, they win 60-70% of the time. That's not all the time, though. So even the best players don't win all the time. And I know it might seem like when people are like winning 4 or 5 stitches that they're winning all the time. How many tournaments did they go to win those? Did they go to 4 or 5, or did they go to 7, 8, 9, 10? And don't get me wrong, if you can win 4 or 5 in like 6, 7 tries, that's incredible. That's great. Good for you. But it doesn't mean you're winning all the time. Me, for example, like I said, we bubbled out twice, but we kept going and trying, and the third time it came around and we got it. And you know, I actually top 4'd every single time at locals prior to these, so not gonna lie, I kind of had a big head going into the first one, and it was just kind of a reminder that, hey, it's a competitive game. You're not always gonna win. And then I spent so much time playtesting this past week, and luckily it paid off. But yeah, so practice. You're not always gonna win. You gotta understand. Try to pay attention. If, like with your losses, was there something you could have did different? Did you play it great? Because sometimes you just can't help it. Sometimes your opponent has the answer. Like, I had a game. What did I have on board? I had 5. So I had a spellbook, merfolk. So that was 3. I want to say Rabbit, Little Ursula, and Big Ursula. And I had Mother Knows Best in hand. My opponent had Surfer Mini and something else on board. He was at 17. I'm like, okay, I can quest to 15, sing this, bounce both his cards, my turn, quest, and win the game. Unfortunately, my opponent top decked Scar, and Scar just went right through my board and, you know, got rid of everything. So sometimes your opponent just has it. Sometimes they get the answer. Sometimes they have it. And my first reaction was, really, I lost to the Saki one of. And then I sat there and I thought about it. I'm like, well, Medusa off the top gets rid of my merfolk. I lose that game. Scar, obviously, I lose that game. I'm like, what else would lose that game? I'm like, Queen of Hearts has Rush. He'd get that, play it, take out my merfolk. Again, I wouldn't be able to get the 20 at that point, and he would win on his next turn. So in reality, it wasn't I lost to a top deck Scar. I lost to Medusa, Queen, Scar, a handful of things, and Scar just happened to be the one. So understand that sometimes you're going to lose, and just because it's a Saki one-of, that doesn't mean you lost to the Saki one-of. Sometimes they have 9 answers in that deck. My top 8 matchup, I had enough on board to get me to 18, and I had Goat, Mother Knows Best in my hand. And his thought was, of course, which he knew I had the Goat already from prior knowledge. He's like, of course he would have that one card to bounce it back to hand. But you guys saw I'm playing 2 Mother Knows Best, and in addition to 2 Mother Knows Best, I still had 2 more Goats in my deck, so that's 4 cards to potentially win me the game. I have 4 Snake and 4 Fox. I don't remember how many were still in deck, but again, so like if we look at total cards, there's 3 other Goats, there's 2 Mother Knows Best, so that's 5. We have 8 Bouncers, so we're up to 13. Bosses on a roll gets me a passive lore. We had 1 spellbook already out, but we had 1 more in the deck. Literally any of those cards, and we're like halfway through the game. I think I had like 14 cards that could win me the game. So sure, I had Mother Knows Best, but realistically there was 13 other cards in my deck that win me on that turn. So just because you lose to a Saki card, it doesn't mean that's the only way you'd lose. And I think you get less frustrated if you understand that. Sometimes you just can't help it, like I said. Sometimes you misplay, though. And if you misplay, it stinks, and I know it feels bad. We've all been there. We've all done it. And we're all going to do it again. But at the end of the day, that's just a part of the game, and it happens. So, like I said, practice, play a lot, watch videos, watch all kinds of guys. Like, when you want to play a deck, learn about it. Learn its good matchups, its bad matchups. And just because you're not going to play a deck, watch videos on other decks. Because if you learn the other decks, you see their weaknesses, and then you can find more of what you can do. So hopefully this video helps you guys out. Until next time, guys, like, share, subscribe, comment down below. Take care.